And welcome back to another video of jPlay. Today I will be doing something about seasons. And this time I won't be doing a complete playthrough, but instead I will give you an explanation video. So teaching you how to play as good as I can. Seasons is a very cool game, and it's actually hard to describe because it has so many components or so many different aspects to it. So it's a bit dice rolling, you have a little bit of resource management in respect to the energies. I think one of the biggest factors is still some kind of a lightweight deck building game, where you have the opportunity to build your deck before you actually start playing, and this is done very cool, but I will explain that later when I explain this. And the artwork and the overall theme are absolutely tremendous. I totally love it. My wife adores it as well, so we really enjoy playing this. And as far as I know, there will be an expansion coming out pretty soon. Not so sure about one, and to be honest, I have forgotten the name. And that's the main reason why I'm doing, let's say, a rule explanation video for season. So if anyone would be interested in whatever, going for both the base set and the expansion, then this might help you. In Germany you get this game, or it's distributed by Asmodee. So, and thanks very much for providing me this reviewer's example here. And now, let's have a quick look what's inside the box, and then I will show you how to play it. I just recognized that Seasons will be my 100th video on YouTube. Isn't that awesome? And really, it's cool that Seasons is it, because it's really very cool and great game. So, let's get over to the setup and I explain you how to play it. First of all, you prepare the main game board. And this is pretty easy. You just put the two markers that needs to be placed on this game board accordingly. So one goes here to reflect that this is the first year, and the second stone goes here on the winter season over here on the spot with the number 1. Next, you place the season dice next to the appropriate seasons. For example, the blue dice goes here to the winter season, and the green spring die goes here to the spring season. And keep in mind, there is always one more die than actual players are playing. So in this example, this would be the setup for a 2-player game. Each player chooses an individual game board. There are no differences in between of values or attributes. They only bring, let's say, a different topic to the game, and of course the appropriate game color. Player color, more or less. So this would be the orange player, and this is more a Halloweenish style. This would be for the light green color, and this very cute little guy over here. But as you can see already, there is not a difference in between to these values or in respect to these bonus actions over here. Each player takes 2 of his colored stones and places them on both here to the 0 fields, and I explain those values in a second. Then we will prepare the crystal track, and also in a 2-player game they have 2 stones. So for example, the orange player places one of his stones on the 0 over there and one on the 0 over there. This is only a counter whenever you, let's say, exceed the 99 crystal track, then you would advance the stone accordingly, and the second player does the same. So 0 here and 0 there. So basically what does that mean? Both players are starting with 0 crystals. The energy tokens will be prepared next to the game board. Note, the players do not have any starting energy at the beginning of the game. These were already the starting preparations. Next, the players have to agree on the difficulty level. And Seasons comes with 3 difficulty levels. So the first one would be the Apprentice Wizard. And in this scenario, or in this difficulty level, the players do not choose their power cards. No, they are giving, let's say, 4 different sets, and they can choose from that. The next level would be the Magician level. In this scenario, or in this difficulty level, each player can choose the cards from, let's say, a predefined draw, but we are only using the base deck for that. And then there is the Archmage level, and there the players also draft their cards, but they are also allowed to use the more advanced cards. Let's have a look at the normal Magician level. So each player would now draw 9 cards, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Next, each player chooses exactly one card from the 9 cards he has just drawn. So for example, this one. And then he will give the remaining cards to the player to the left. And the current player now gets the 8 remaining cards from the player to his right. Thank you very much. Then he selects again, so for example taking these cards, and again gives the remaining 7 cards to the player to his left. By the way, this phase of the game is called the Prelude. This goes on until each player has again 9 cards on his hand, and this means he more or less drafted from the cards that have been drawn from the draw pile. Next, we have to create our libraries. And the first thing to do would be to select your starting hand, basically. So this means you select 3 cards from your 9 cards, and these will be put aside. Then you will create the library for your second year, and you do that of course hidden, so no other player should see what cards you have on your hand and which card you put under which library. So for example, this would be the library for the second year. We put the appropriate token on top of it, and then you would create the library for the third year, also hidden of course, and would put the token for the third year library on top of it. So you start the game with your starting hand, and once you come into the second year, you are allowed to take the library for the year 2 to your hand. You are allowed to take the library for year 3 whenever you enter year 3 of the current game. Now each player should have 3 cards for his starting hand and should have prepared his game board. Again, starting with the number 0 for your summoning gorge, and here on the value with the number 0 for your bonus actions. Now let's have a look at your player board. The summoning gorge over here shows you the amount of power cards you are allowed to have in front of you. So note, there is no hand limit, so basically you can have as many cards on your hand as possible, but you are not allowed to have more cards in front of you than your summoning gorge here shows. So for example, if this stone would be on this value, you would be allowed to cast 2 power cards in front of you. This track over here is your indicator on how many bonus actions you actually have used, and the bonus actions are shown here. So whenever you are taking a bonus, you would move this stone 1 space ahead, and by the end of the game you suffer this amount of victory point losses. I will explain the bonus actions during the game whenever I'm explaining an appropriate action. Now the second phase of the game starts, and this phase is called the tournament. And the tournament is played over consecutive rounds until we reach the third year and completely play it through. So whenever this stone, when we are in year 3, comes from fall to winter, the game ends and the final scoring occurs. How does one round in seasons look like? That's pretty easy. The starting player will take the appropriate dice from the according season. In this case, this would be the winter season, and rolls. Then the starting player chooses his first die and takes it from the offer, for example this one. Then the second player would also select a die from the remaining 2, and that's the reason why there is only one more die than actual players are playing, so that also the last player can have a choice. So in this case the second player would go for this die, for example. This remaining die needs to be kept aside, and this is pretty important because it indicates how fast the year progresses. Let's have a look at the dice. The dice are very different from each other, especially when it comes to different seasons. So for example, the blue winter die normally shows more water and more air energy tokens, whereas a summer die over here more or less shows more earth energy and more fire energy. Let's see what these symbols actually mean. So for once the die could show a little star symbol over here. And this star symbol allows you to advance your summoning gorge 1 space ahead. So with this star you are now allowed to cast at least one power card in front of you. The next symbol here on this die shows you an actual energy symbol. In this case this would be the air energy symbol. So this means you are allowed to grab one energy token from the type air and put it next to your player board. Note these little numbers over there. These show you how many of these energy tokens you are allowed to collect next to your player board. And the normal maximum are 7 energy tokens. There are some cards in the game who allow you to extend this limit, and you are also allowed to exchange an energy token. So for example, in doing your next turn you would gain another of these air energy tokens and you would like to store that rather than the earth token here, then you can exchange that easily. The ring around you allows you to transmutate your actual energy tokens into crystals. In order to transmute energy into crystals, you have to consult the game board on the, let's say, current exchange rate for energies, and this differs from season to season. For example, during winter you see that a fire energy token is worth 2 crystals, whereas an earth token even is worth 3 crystals, and the blue water token and the air token only gives you 1 crystal each. So in this example you could take your air energy, transmute this to 1 crystal, and you would score that on the appropriate crystal track. Note that these crystals are for once prestige or victory points by the end of the game, but they can also be used to cast power cards later on. On each die there is a dot printed on that. This can be 1 dot, this can be 2 dots, or even 3 dots. This only says how much or how fast the season progresses. But note, it's not been identified from the dice that has been selected. No, this will be taken from the die that has been left behind. But first, let's check out the remaining symbols on the die. A die could show, for example, a little number on top of these symbols. So in this case, still the player would gain 2 water energy tokens, but this little number shows him that he would also be allowed to advance his crystal track 3 steps ahead. So in this example, the purple player has chosen this die, so he would be allowed to advance his crystal track 3 spaces ahead. 1, 2 and 3. The die could also show you this card symbol. In this case, the active player could just draw a card from the draw deck. The die could also show a big number on it. In this case, the active player just would be allowed to move the crystal track 6 spaces ahead. The dice that belong to a different seasons are following the same pattern, but in most cases show different energy symbols. So in this case, the die for the fall shows an earth symbol rather than a water or an air symbol. After the starting player has chosen his die, gathered his energy and progressed his summoning gorge accordingly, then he could go into the transmutation phase that are shown around that. And this is very important, that you really have to resolve the other symbols first, so like advancing the gorge here or to gain the appropriate energy tokens. Next, he could now decide and either using power cards or casting power cards. So let's have a brief look at the power cards. The power cards always show a prestige value on the top left corner to the cards. Keep in mind, there are cards that are worth 0 prestige point by the end of the game. But in this case, this shows the number 8. So once this is casted and you can keep it until the end of the game, you are allowed to gain 8 additional victory points. Next, there in the middle here, you see the cost in order to cast this power card. So in this case, you would need to pay 1 water energy token and 1 air energy token, and then you would be allowed to play that card in front of you. Keep in mind, you always need to consider your summoning gorge, and this is your real limit. So in order to cast this, you have at least summoning gauge value of 1. Next, the card shows what kind of effect the card has. In this case, this would be an instantaneous effect, so you see a little arrow to the top left of the corner, so the effect that's shown here on this card will only be triggered once this card is played, and then no longer. There are 3 different effect types in the game. This would be the first one. This is the activation effect. So in order to gain the benefit from this card, you have to activate this. And this really differs from card to card. In this example, you can activate this card by basically discarding 3 identical energy in order to gain the benefit from this card. Then you would tap it and you would be no longer allowed to use it in this round. Of course, during your next turn, you could untap it again and then it would be ready to use again. The last effect type would be a recurring effect or an ongoing effect. That's by this circled arrow down there. So basically this effect always takes place. In this case, for example, it says each time you are summoning a new power card, you are allowed to gain 1 energy of your choice, which is nice. And you don't need to activate it, it just is there. And additionally, it brings you 6 victory points. Basically, you are allowed to cast as many cards as you like, as long as you can pay the cost that's been printed here, and as your summoning gauge allows you to have in front of you. So in order to control these creatures or artifacts or whatever. There are 2 different cards or kind of cards in the play. So for once you have these purple objects here and you have the orange creatures over there. And this is pretty important because some status effects or some other cards only refer to objects, where other cards maybe only refer to creatures. Now let's have a look at the bonus actions that are printed on each of these player boards. In total, there are 4 different bonus actions available. And you can take them anytime during your turn and basically also in the order you would like to have them. You can even use a bonus action more than once. But keep in mind, each time you are using a bonus, you have to move this stone 1 space ahead. So this means by the end of the game you would lose 5 victory points. In this example, this would be 12 victory points and so on. I think you get the picture. This also means you are only allowed to have 3 bonuses in total during the complete game. Now we check out the different bonus actions. The first bonus action would allow you to exchange up to 2 energy tokens in any other energy tokens. So for example, you would have 2 of these air tokens and you desperately need 2 earth tokens. Then with this bonus action, so you would move that ahead to say, okay, I have taken 1 bonus, then I could exchange that and grab 2 earth energy tokens or whatever I like to have. I could even do that twice. So for example, if I would have to, let's say, exchange 2 additional tokens, I could take the second bonus and do that again. The next bonus actions, that would be this one, would allow me to gain 1 more crystal when I would use the transmutation action. So remember, this is the circle around the symbol. So in this case, I would gain 1 more symbol than that the current market situation would allow. The third bonus action would allow me to raise my summoning gauge 1 space ahead. So I would take this bonus action and then I can increase my summoning gauge accordingly. This can be really important when you really have a good card on your hand and you also have whatever the right amount of resources, but you are not allowed to cast any more cards because of your summoning gauge. In this case, you would use this action. The fourth bonus action is only handy when you are using this card symbol over there. In this case, you could take these bonus actions. Again, of course, you would move your stone ahead, and then you would be allowed not to draw just 1 card from the draw deck, but you would be allowed to draw 2 cards from the draw deck, but you are allowed to keep only 1. So you have a better choice, and this can be also really important in order to gain the right power card that might match your energy symbols. Again, once you have taken your third bonus action, then you are no longer allowed to take additional bonus actions, and you also suffer a loss of 20 victory points by the end of the game. Still, this can be really important. Now, when all players have selected their die and have taken their action, then the round actually ends. First of all cards that shows an end of round effect needs to be activated at this point in time. Next, you would see how many dots the remaining die that has not been selected by any player is showing. So in this example, these would be 3 dots. So we would move the track 1, 2, 3 spaces ahead. So we would now enter spring season. Whenever this stone crosses the line between fall and winter, 1 year is gone, and we would note that down by moving the according stone here to the 2nd year. So we would not only have a season change now, again we have to consider that there are cards that have end of season effects on it that needs to be activated now, and now we also have a year end, and there might be cards that also show an end of year effect in this case. Additionally, the players are now allowed to take the cards of the 2nd year library. So for example, when we enter the 2nd year, we would be allowed to take these 3 additional cards to our hand. In the previous example, we showed you that we were entering the spring season. So from now on, we would use the green spring dice, and also the starting player changes after each game round to the player to the left, basically in a clockwise direction. If we are already in our 3rd year and the outer marker again crosses the line between fall and winter, then the game immediately ends. Again, we will activate all round end effects, all season end effects, all year end effects, and then the final scoring commences. The first thing to check are the amount of crystals. Because I explained that already, the crystals also equal your actual prestige point by the end of the game. So in this example, orange player has 49 crystals and the purple player has 61 crystals in play. So basically, purple is in the lead here. Next, we score the prestige points that are printed on the power cards that each player has cast in front of him. So in this example, the orange player would have casted these 3 cards during the game, so he would gain 22 additional victory points. So that's 2 and 20, so he would be in the lead now, and let's just say purple also have cast some cards, so he would land here on 73 victory points. Next, you have to subtract 5 prestige points for each power card you still have on your hand. So for example, purple player has still 1 card on his hand, so he would lose 5 prestige points. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Again, orange would be in the lead. The last thing to score would be your bonus action. So for example, orange has taken 1 bonus action throughout the game, so he would lose 5 victory points. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And this ends the final scoring. Just consider that purple hasn't used any bonus. So in this case, purple would win the tournament. And this also ends my rule explanation video about season. I hope most of the mechanics and components got clear throughout my explanations. If not, please let me know and I will try to explain you in my Facebook page, YouTube comments or whatsoever. Seasons is really a great game. And there will be the expansion coming out pretty soon, at least here in Germany. I'm not so sure what the actual ETA would be, but the name is Enchanted Kingdoms, and to my knowledge there will be new power cards, some new mechanics, and I think new energy tokens and so on. So really, definitely something to look forward to it. But still, the base game with Seasons already offers you so much replayability with the really huge set of basic cards, and there is an additional set for advanced cards, the dice rolling and so on. So really you have more than enough reasons to play this game more than once. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully I will see you again in one of my next videos. Not so sure what my next video will be, but I do have a slight idea. And yeah, until then, bye bye.